Hey everybody, welcome to your weekly energy report for the week following the summer winter solstice, depending on where you are. Um, Hard to believe that that's where we're at, but it is indeed the solstice. Very potent day, very important shifts. We are moving into Cancer season, so that's going to be the next month is going to be all about how you feel within yourself, about yourself, towards yourself, in relation to yourself, and your dynamics with others. Um, of course, the duality of that is that we either come out of our shell as a result of the work that we do, or we withdraw. So initially, those first 10 days of Cancer season will probably be mostly internal. There will be probably a little bit of a shift from that Gemini insanity, no offense, Geminis, into a more self-reflective inner drive. So I think we could all use that, frankly. Um, Hopefully other aspects will not cause too much chaos. Um, we have moved through the intense bulk of that second Saturn square Uranus, which was absolutely horrifying. And that's why I made the little extra video midweek for those of you that did watch that. I hope it was helpful for you. It's certainly, the dynamics are, well, just quite intense. That's all I can say. But we've moved through the bulk of that. It's important to look at what those triggers were and what the feelings were that you had as we move into Cancer season, specifically to get a better understanding of how we can circumvent these things going forward. As this is a three-parter, this Saturn-Uranus dynamic, the third one, which is on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, depending on where you are in the world, will be the completion of that energy. So as we've completed the midpoint, everything here on out from that dynamic sort of is about rebuilding what has been altered. So hopefully you're seeing that. If you're not yet, then it's a good time for you to use this early Cancer energy to do some self-reflection and to just look at the events of the last month or so of your life and put them into perspective and start asking yourself questions. Isolate the things that were problematic so that you can better understand them. You have to do the work of examining them. What else do we have? Well, we have the full moon in Capricorn this coming week. I think it's on Thursday. This full moon really is a huge, and we say that constantly, right, about all this astrology, but that's because we are living in some of the most dynamic times astrologically that we'll have known in our lifetime. So that is why there's always, some major comeuppance or some major transformational energy, and that's basically, this full moon is about, there's an enormous release potential with this full moon of pathways that, karmic pathways that no longer exist, but that we might still be programmed into pursuing by force of habit. Now, that's why it's important to take advantage of the Cancer energy to understand what no longer serves us and what we've moved beyond. So course, I have a little visitor right here nipping at my feet. I thought that if I sat in a different place, we'd have less problems with this, but he gets rambunctious when I'm not paying attention to him. Okay. Yes, you go over here. So this full moon, in America, we call it the strawberry moon. In other parts of the world, it's referred to as the honey moon. Interesting anecdote, because in America we base it off of the almanac, which is, so it's time to pick strawberries in June. The honeymoon, as it implies, the actual notion of a honeymoon comes from the fact that this was the time when couples used to get married, I suppose. I mean, that's my understanding in any case. Makes sense. June weddings, right? I mean, if you follow that kind of traditional shit, that, in its pagan roots was a thing of beauty, in the modern world is just disgusting. Codependent nightmares of people that don't examine themselves by hiding themselves in relationships with other people so that they can both be neurotic together and feel that they're not alone in their craziness. That's the modern relationship. But I'm not cynical, right? Neptune goes retrograde this week too. That's actually good, because a lot of that chaos in the ether and the concept of beliefs and perception and feeling like some type of mysterious force exists outside of ourselves that we don't understand, that kind of gets internalized, and we have the opportunity to find our footing again in many ways in terms of our sense of reality. So that's a good thing. Jupiter also will be going retrograde, which again, it really depends on where these planets are in your personal chart. For me, Jupiter retrograde, I think it was the summer of 2018. I remember that there being a lot of retrogrades, but I do remember Jupiter retrograding, and I remember the intensity of that. And again, it was, a lot of this energetic flow has a lot to do with, the things that we've already put out in the world then have the opportunity to sort of grow roots. And, Jupiter being the planet of expansion, it is also, the dynamic of luck and growth and magnification of anything that is really a part of your individual journey and the collective journey. So retrogrades tend to give us that opportunity to process. So all of these things are good. Expect elements of this to give you a more reflective nature throughout the summer, I'd say. Okay, let's get into the cards. I haven't pulled any yet, except I just pulled a Spirit Animal Oracle card of the week. You'll have to excuse me if I sound slightly bizarre. It's because, as I talked about last week, I had my tooth implant from my accident. Well, that situation, it was loose, and that situation exacerbated itself into an agonizing process of actually my body rejected the implant after 8 years, which is really weird. And it literally came out over the course of like a few hours. It was extremely painful. And once it was out, it was a huge relief. And now I have a temporary tooth here so that I look normal, but it's all bonded behind my teeth, which is exactly how it was when I had that accident 8 years ago. And it's oddly familiar to me, but it's also really gross because it literally feels as though I have like some kind of, well, it feels like somebody stuck hard chewing gum behind my teeth. That's what it feels like. Anyway, so when my tongue hits the back of my teeth, I have ostensibly a slight lisp. Whatever. Okay, so our spirit animal oracle card of the week is Pig Spirit, number 47. Use your mind wisely. Pig Spirit appears to remind you of the right use of intelligence, a gift we all have that is meant to be used with love, compassion, and discernment. Intelligence means recognizing the value of intuition partnered with smarts and common sense, which leads to intelligent solutions. When Pig Spirit appears, you are called to respect your analytical mind and use it for the highest good, recognizing that all facts must be considered even when they do not fit with what you already know. Spirit blesses us with wisdom when we allow Pig Spirit to nudge us into open-minded, thoughtful dialogues, whether with others or internally, as we mull over our ideas and what we have come to understand. So that's really the early degrees of Cancer in a nutshell. You are intelligent and capable of clear-minded thinking, shaped by the wisdom you have accumulated and the intuition that will tell you when you have more learning to do because not all the facts are in. Now is a time when your decision-making powers are reliable, for you are in alignment with Pig Spirit's keen intelligence. And I'm not reading the protection message because I think that's a very positive message and it's one that's very practical, and I think it fits the dynamics of this time perfectly. So let's pull a Sacred Destiny Oracle card for the week. Oh. Okay, so it makes sense because Mercury is also going direct this coming week. Another thing is a lot of planetary shifts, basically. So we get 3 cards. I'm not going to read them, but I will put them out there so that we understand them. So bottom of the deck, we have standstill. So that is, when these planets are shifting direction, there's always that slight sense of slowing down, which we all should be grateful for, considering how chaotic, tumultuous, and intense these last couple of weeks have been. So here we have standstill, nice quiet energy so that we can be reflective. We also have pleasure, which we've had recently a couple of times. So I'd say we're still learning how to reintegrate pleasure into our lives, and pleasure being something where we are taking care of ourselves as well and being mindful and healthful at the same time. And then we have potential. So in this standstill moment, it's through pleasure that we find potential. Hopefully that makes sense. I need to apply that to your life, but it does sound as though we have a requirement to quieten ourselves and give ourselves a little bit more mindfulness of what pleasure is in our life. And we are coming out of this energy that's just popped its head out to remind me that, that's where we were the last month. We were in this tower moment. There is a dissolution of things that don't serve us, essentially. Yep. 4 of Wands, we're building something new. New foundations. And a lot of it based coming out of Gemini on what our mind has come to the conclusion of. So, a lot of that duality that had been negotiated back and forth led us to a place where we can make a solid plan and decision going forward with our lives. To to our legacy, our emotional fulfillment, and capacity to love. You know? I just go with the cards that pop out so that we get a good sense of what the energies are, and then I pull the Celtic cross. That's what I'm doing this week. So this is us right now. I have to forgive the monster that's like appeared on screen. I'm trying to go as I would with a toddler, you know, with the perspective that if I don't bring attention to what he's doing, then he won't feel the need to keep doing it. We'll see how that works, right, mister? He's right here. You can't see him because he's slightly below the camera. Well, I spoke too soon. We try. Don't worry, I'm not neglectful. I spent all morning with Enzo in bed. We get this again. Because these are the things that fulfill us. You know, even the people or the things that can be a little annoying. Where there's love, there's pleasure. Even when somebody knocks your shit over all the time. Right? Anyway, like I said, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots going on energetically. So if you've been feeling overwhelmed, be kind to yourself. Again, we keep getting that Queen of Wands. A reminder, this is the energy that we will be embodying this week. You know what Queen of Swords is. And we also have the Fool. So new beginning in that energy. So again, it makes sense because we've also got planets moving out of Cancer into Leo. Some planets go a little faster, like Venus will be moving into Leo. Mars is in Leo. You know, just that feistiness, that self-confidence, that performer, that inner performer, you know, wants to be seen. We want to, you know, and part of Cancer season is about coming into balance with that, you know, rather than being in that impulsive Gemini energy where we're, you know, we externalize everything in duality and chaos and, you know, sort of a temperance process. You know, now we actually get to put it to the test to make it work for us. We've understood it's not just about ideas and thoughts. It becomes something tangible. The seeds have been planted, and now we watch them grow, and we take care of them in the process, right? So, anyway, I'm not sure why I keep shuffling these. I haven't really felt that they were ready for that. I guess I needed to say all of that. That was the moon popped out just now. So again, the full moon will be pivotal energetically for the week ahead. Okay. Let's cut these cards and let's deal. Okay. Nice. Well, interesting. Okay. Well, we're not out of the woods yet, and I need to pull some clarifiers right away because there's some difficult energies here in this reading. I'm just letting you know. Makes sense. You can't just make everything disappear from one week to the next, right? Okay. What is this? Okay, that's that. Let's see. I will tell you what all the cards are in a second, but I really do feel the need to clarify why we have some of these tricky cards here before I can move forward with the reading. Basically, I'll tell you, our underlying energy of the week is the Six of Cups. Okay, that's good. And I feel that, you know, that ability to re-enter our heart space in a way that is it's like where we can sort of feel at peace with our heart energies rather than being in a battle or feeling like you're constantly out of alignment. You know what I mean? Like constantly catching up with yourself. Um, there's a sense of, again, I always see the Six of Cups as being, this is an inner balance between the, the the inner self parent and the inner child. Um, that balance makes for um, a more receptive energy. It makes us more receptive to the flow, the potential in pleasure, you know? And it is a self-reflective energy too, so it makes sense that we would have standstill with pleasure and potential, and that's the underlying energy in the Six of Cups. At the center of our reading, really, really nice, we actually have the Wheel of Fortune, so a massive shift of energies coming out this week with the Sun. So we're moving into something very positive, nurturing, grounded. We're in the right place where we have enormous potentiality. And I will take one clarifier on the Sun just to see if there's a specific energy that we should be okay. Again, the Fool. So it could not be more clear. We're moving into something so new, such a new shift of reality, of perception, of experience, that would explain why we have some of these slightly difficult energies. Because whenever we find ourselves at that crossroads and start of a new chapter, all of the old karmic stuff, still is bubbling at the surface, even though it's been resolved and put away, because it's what we've learned, it's what we're used to. We have a learned response to it. It's ingrained in our consciousness, and we haven't had new experiences yet that give us the opportunity to replace those old patterns. You know what I mean? So that can make us feel like we're faltering a bit or we're on solid ground, which is not the truth. You are on solid ground. You just feel that way. So we go into our deep past where we have these two not very pleasant energies, the Five of Swords and the Ten of Swords. Now, what this tells me is that what we are ending, what is finally coming to a complete close, is the egoic need to prove ourselves, to prove that we are right to others, to come into this understanding that this only leads to our own sense of defeat, our own sense of being overwhelmed, our own sense of being exhausted by the process. And so we have come to an understanding that we have to live and let live, and that everybody is learning, everybody is as teachable as they want to be, and that's each of us' responsibility to put ourselves in that state in order to receive the lessons of life, because, as I've said many times before, the only purpose of life is to keep learning. And if you are no longer learning, if you are no longer teachable, you're dead. You might be breathing, your heart might be beating still, but your brain is rotting and you're dying. Very dramatic. At the foundation of our reading, we have the Ace of Cups. So again, this is about coming out of this uncomfortable energy. It's all been about a rediscovering emotional potential, understanding where we have become where our feelings and our thoughts and our our sort of library of knowledge has become a burden and a hindrance to our path forward, and it was clarified by the Emperor. So the Ace of Cups is the emotional flow. It's being receptive to the divine gift in order to start building our empire, because the emperor represents us in this particular circumstance, and it is about rebuilding our own empire. I mean, when I say empire, I mean most of us think of imperialism when we say empire, in the sense that we are thinking of conquering and, land and war and so on and so forth, and wealth and, I suppose on some level that is true, but take it away from, because we're talking about cups here, it's an emotional empire as opposed to a, pentacles and a material empire. So what are we building for ourselves emotionally from divine inspiration? That's the shift. We have moved out of these stories that keep us small, the victim stories, the things that make us feel like we're stuck and that like our happiness depends on somebody else or something outside of ourselves. We have moved on to understanding that the only thing that we really stand to receive is from God universe. If you're expecting that cup to be filled by some other person, you will never, ever, ever get there. You'll never feel satisfied by that, ever. It is the antithesis of what life is. And it's no irony that all of the traditions, infrastructures, everything that we have been brainwashed into thinking is the way that we should be living, that these things they don't suit us, and we find ourselves struggling to make sense of those things, because it's like, wait, all the things that society and, whether it be our parents, the television, our teachers, all of these things, our government, tell us, whether you get an incentive from the government for like, being married or having children, fiscal incentives, think about that from a spiritual perspective. Think of how wrong that is from a spiritual perspective, that our individual choices are encouraged by policy. And, what we're taught across the board, whether it be in our personal life or through a school system, academia, it's they're traditions that allow others to rule over us. They give us a permission that we don't need other people to give us permission to do. I mean, honestly, it is really stupid, but I think we're going to be thinking a lot about this in the week ahead, because we got this with the Nine of Swords. So again, a lot of this energy right now is probably like where we're questioning our place in our institutions, in the institutionalized parts of our lives, and we see aspects of them that get in our way, or when we can't attain this sense of structure in our lives, perhaps that also causes us anxiety, but whatever it is, what we have considered tradition, what we have considered infrastructural foundation, what we have considered the word of ruling forces is being seriously shaken up. And so rather than seeing the potential for pleasure in all of that, we have to be careful not to fall into anxiety over not knowing what will come in its place, if that makes sense. That is what change is all about. I mean, there's always the potential for fear, and we'll get into that, indecision, feeling disempowered, not knowing how to move forward, and allowing that rather than just to be in the flow and to receive, which is what the whole month that we've just come out of was all about, was finding ways to understand how to be in flow. We get stuck Again, we'll get into that because we're not quite there yet. Okay, our crowning energy, interesting, because I was kind of freaked out by this because we got the Three of Swords, but it was clarified by Judgment. So this is actually not about feeling the Three of Swords, the emotional defeat. This is about understanding the emotional defeat that has made us who we are and has driven us to respect or honor certain traditions that don't serve us and that are causing us this strife and turmoil and discomfort. This is divine rebirth over this energy. No longer defining ourselves by our pain. And, in order to do that, not only do we have to be at peace with ourselves and open to receiving from God universe, but we also have to be willing to put down the old stories that we tell ourselves, right? And we can find ourselves, if we listen to ourselves, if we take advantage of that standstill energy and the pig spirit energy of using our mind wisely, we can sit with ourselves and we can come to conclusions that are more expansive and open-ended and positive and that bolster us and move us forward in directions that are unknown, not towards the Hierophant energy, but towards what we have in our present here, which is the Knight of Wands, which is the most passionate, zealous, excited, inspired, driven energy of the deck. This is fast moving. This is really we probably should watch ourselves having standstill there and having this card represent us in the present, because that means that we are eager, to move forward, perhaps to even skip steps. And we have to always remain mindful of the cyclical nature of life, which means that we have to go through, that's what tarot really tells us, we have to go through all of the major arcana on our life journey. We have to go through all of the depictions of the linear process from the ace to the 10 and then through the suit, I can't find my words. The face cards, the kings and queens and knights and pages, These are energies that are integral to our life experience, all of them, and they manifest in different ways at different times. And can you just not, because you can't go on this desk right now? I know it's very complicated for you. I think I made my point. I'm going to take a clarifier on that Knight of Wands because I want to know in what way that's manifesting in our lives. And I suppose it will depend mainly on what's going on in your life and what you're prioritizing. Ow! Ow! That hurts. It still hurts. Cheeky. Another thing that could be said of the Knight of Wands. Oh. Okay, so the clarifier on the Knight of Wands is the Chariot and the Nine of Cups. So again, this is that inner knowing. It's like when we know what makes us happy and how we attain our inner emotional balance and satisfaction. And with the Chariot and the Knight of Wands, that's a lot of forward movement. So, there is this revving up of the engine, taking place emotionally for us at a time when, the shift to Cancerian energy might actually be encouraging us to be more introspective. So we'll probably be finding, which could also be where energy like the the Nine of Swords comes from, because when things aren't moving quite as fast as we'd like in the outside world, it's very often an indication that it's because we're trying to bypass the inner process, right? So you got to be mindful of that. And it does show up that way because this is how we're perceived in our environment. Be careful not to be seen by people as being ungrateful. I know I'm being pretty literal with this reading, but I feel like it is kind of on the nose. You know, part of the contemplation process when we have the opportunity to go inwards is to explore what's on offer that we're not seeing or that we're not content with. Very often, well, always, it's important to remember that in life, the universe provides us with what we need, not necessarily what we think we want, because very often what we think we want doesn't serve our our higher self and our highest good. So that's a part of the reason why we have to be in flow, so that we're not at odds with that, because otherwise it creates this sense of discontentment or dissatisfaction or not seeing the opportunities that are right in front of us because we're focused on some other unattainable outcome. So that's just a little friendly reminder, because that was in our environment. So either it means that we're going to be on the receiving end of other people who are like that, and that could exasperate us slightly, so we need to ground ourselves around that, or it's how we're feeling ourselves and ultimately not being content with what we have. And I certainly see the potential for that, and right now I am trying my very hardest to remind myself all the time of all of the privilege that I have afforded myself, but also that I am afforded by others, and to seek new opportunity out of what's there, rather than being so focused on what is outside of me or outside of my reach right now. Psychologically, this comes back to what we were talking about earlier. You have that Two of Swords energy. So there is this potential for finding yourself in a place of, if you're not accepting stillness, in your life, if you're not accepting finding the value in what is already in your life right now, if you're not seeing the potential of growth and of enjoyment and fulfillment and within what is already there, with the seeds you've already planted, then oh, excuse me, I'm on my medicine ball, so I literally just fell off of it. You won't be able to be in this. This is going to be problematic for you, this forward movement energy. This will be like this. You will feel very dissatisfied if you're like this. And I will actually tell you that the Nine of Cups, when it fell on the floor, was upside down, but I turned it around myself. So that's just kind of confirmed what that was all about. So I'm not going to take a clarifier on the Two of Swords, because the Two of Swords is our psychology anyway. That's how I interpret it in my reading. So again, that's a feeling. And, the crescent moon is in the sky there. So again, I think what we have to understand is the full moon gives us the opportunity to take this blindfold off, because it's by releasing that we are able to see clearly again, rather than getting caught up in what we've left behind, that Ten of Swords, Five of Swords energy that we discussed earlier, that's no longer who we are. So when we find ourselves feeling like this, that's because we're still in that energy, and it's a learned process rather than a truthful reflection of what you're actually experiencing in life. Our outcome for the week was the Hermit. Again, reinforcement of that need to, really focus on your inner journey, your inner process, finding the most fulfillment that you can out of that right now. Because trust me, in a couple of weeks' time, it's going to be a totally different scenario. You're going to be experiencing life very, very differently, and you'll be very glad that you did that work. Spiritual practices are essential to us at this time, and I know because I have a ton of guided meditations that I want to do that I have sitting in my inbox because, frankly, my work has been so overwhelming that I have spent a lot of time not anesthetizing myself, but disconnecting at the end of long, long work days, and that in turn has meant that I haven't been focused on my deeper spiritual practices. I've just been focused on a superficial alleviation, a form of respite and escapism. And that's okay. Sometimes that's the way that life is, but it's a reminder that this is actually a time when the energies are going to lend themselves well to self-care, meditation being primary in that. The clarifiers on it I'm taking as well of like things that we are letting go of, or should I say repurposing. So we got, the hermit energy going inwards, finding that inner light, acknowledging that we are the light on our path to others. Is about letting go of that burden, carrying all of those stories that don't serve you anymore, not being you that did this, that had this experience that, led to this and ended up like this and blah, blah, blah. That just gets in your way. It stunts your growth when you're in this place. So we are getting that opportunity with this full moon to no longer be in that headspace, which is massive, and opening up to something in return, which is that rather than being in the Five of Swords egoic struggle, tug of war constantly, we move into a healthier version of seeing ourselves in competition with others. In other words, competition drives us forward. It allows us to use other people's experiences and attitudes and reactions and whatever to grow and to move us forward rather than, going into inner turmoil and frustration over, things that we don't like. It's, in other words, we're in flow with the energy around us, which causes us to see inspiration in challenge rather than to see antagonism or control issues. Okay, I'm going to pull one Osho Zen Tarot card for the week, just to give us a little insight and advice, and then we'll be done. And we got trust. An interesting one. Again, when you spend too much time in your mind, trust disappears. Let's see. Where is it? Trust is the Knight of Cups. So this is our advice for the week on a spiritual level. Now is the moment to be a bungee jumper without the cord, and it is this quality of absolute trust with no reservation or safety nets that the Knight of Water demands from us. Okay, I'm going to read that again because it made no sense the way I read it. And it is this quality of absolute trust with no reservation or secret safety nets that the Knight of Water demands from us. There is a tremendous sense of exhilaration if we can take the jump and move into the unknown, even if the idea scares us to death. There's that Nine of Swords energy that we have to nurture into a forward-facing drive, right? And when we take trust to the level of quantum leaps, we don't make any elaborate plans or preparations. We don't say, okay, I trust that I know what to do now, and I'll settle my things and pack my suitcase and take it with me. No, we just jump with hardly a thought for what happens next. The leap is the thing, and the thrill of it as we free fall through the empty sky. The card gives a hint here, though, about what waits for us at the other end. A soft, welcoming, yummy pink rose petal. Juicy. Come on, I'm not really sure what that's trying to say, but I guess whatever this is inviting. So, that's the universe's protection. It's like, as I say, trust that the universe gives you what you need. It always does. Don't waste your life for that which is going to be taken away. Trust life. If you trust, only then can you drop your knowledge. Only then can you put your mind aside. And with trust, something immense opens up. Then this life is no longer ordinary life. It becomes full of God, overflowing. When the heart is innocent and the walls have disappeared, you are bridged with infinity, and you are not deceived. There is nothing that can be taken away from you. That which can be taken away from you is not worth keeping. And that which cannot be taken away from you, why should one be afraid of it being taken away? It cannot be taken away. There is no possibility. You cannot lose your real treasure. Because your real treasure is your line to God universe and what you have in your heart and spirit and soul. That's pretty broad, I know. Big picture stuff. But that's what this process is all for, right? So, on that note, is there anything else? Nope. There is not. I wish you a very successful navigation of these energies. Remember to stay grounded. Remember to give yourself permission to acknowledge your feelings and to understand where they come from and not to judge yourself. It's very important in this time. And to seek out the potentiality in everything that you experience, whether you feel it's good or bad on a superficial level in the moment that you're experiencing it. Just know that everything right now is perfectly divinely timed, and you are meant to experience it exactly as you are. And hopefully you're not feeling unhappy. Hopefully you're starting to feel a little bit of a spark. I definitely know that there were a few days there when I honestly, I could not understand how it was possible that we were in the energy that we were feeling, because I was just like, are we not done with this shit at this point? Well, there is light at the end of the tunnel. We are coming out of it, and there's lots and lots of unexpected, unknown experiences to be had that are going to be worthwhile. So, bye. That's the way I'm leaving you this week. You're amazing. I love you.